The bloodening. Blood was everywhere. As Mavis looked around, the field was covered with it. All she could see was a river of blood. She didn't even know how she got there. She thought she'd had some crazy dream about being chased by some horrific entity, but it was all blurs inside her mind. She slowly pushed herself up off the ground, careful not to slide within the patches of red goo that surrounded her. As her eyes adjusted to the twilight, she could see the reflection of the blood everywhere. It was a scene so dark and so horrifying, she nearly gagged. She started walking around the place. Where the hell was she? The last she remembered, she was sharing a cabin with friends not too far from where she assumed she was. It was very strange that she'd just wake up here in the middle of the night, surrounded by blood. Where was Jason? Where was Emily? Where was the rest of the gang? A horrible feeling sank in her stomach. She knew something was wrong. She looked down at her own hands and gasped. Blood stained them. She was unsure if she had caused this devastation herself, but how could she? She was so young and frail. There's no way she could have harmed anyone. That wasn't in her heart. And yet, something inside her, something she barely even recognized, told her that she was the reason of all this despair. She started walking, trying to find her way. She searched her pockets to see if her phone was there, but it was empty. She then remembered. Last she could remember, it was on the nightstand by her bed when she went to sleep. Whatever happened meant that she couldn't have grabbed her phone. She took a few steps forward into the trees, and that's when she nearly gagged. There was a severed hand right there on the tree. It looked like it had been impaled onto a branch. She turned around and vomited all over the blood. She started running, and as she continued to do so, did she see more debris, torn bits of clothing, small pieces of skin. But finally, the pierre de resistance was when she saw the body, or the remains of it at least. It appeared that whatever had ravished this person had been some carnivorous beast, some horrifying demon from another dimension perhaps. Whatever it was, she couldn't fathom. As she looked down on it, this sorry creature, she noticed its arms were missing. They had clearly been removed. Its head was also absent. She didn't dare look up, as she had a sinking feeling if she did, she might find it, as there was drops of blood just gently plopping near the floor. At this point, she continued running. She was absolutely off her mind. She was so lost, physically and mentally. That's when she saw a light in the distance, the light of the cabin. The blood was still sprinkled around the grass as she ran and hoped not to trip. When she finally made it to the cabin, it was eerily silent. She saw the blood leading up to the front door, and as she pushed it open, she looked inside. The cabin for the most part was empty. She went through each individual room when she finally got to hers, and she pushed open the door with trepidation. Just beyond the door boundary, there were 2 beds. Her bed had been disturbed, and there was her phone, thankfully, right there on the side table. She went and looked to the bed next to her, where her friend had been pulverized. There were teeth and bone scattered everywhere. She gasped and gave out a little cry. What the hell had happened? She was so confused and didn't know what to do. She did the first thing that she thought was reasonable and moved her hand over to grab the phone. But when she saw her hand, did she fully comprehend what was going on? She no longer had small, thin hands. They were vast, strong, and decaying. She quickly turned around to look in the mirror, and her reflection was something horrifying. She had not given heed of the stories told to her by her friends of the accursed Wendigo that roams the land. Whatever she did, she was sorry. But there was no time for that anymore. She had joined the Legion of the Damned and would be doomed for all eternity to roam the woods. She unplugged her phone, threw it out the window, and like some primal instinct took over, jumped straight through the glass and bolted into the forest, never to be seen again. They say that if you go to some particular woods in Maine, you might just hear her screams in the night, for the regret of what she did to her friends and the longing to cause more suffering to others.